You know that feeling, right? You're trying to
Yeah.
boost your health, maybe recover faster from workouts, or even push back against aging a bit.
Hmm.
And you start looking online, and bam, you're just drowning in information about all these new therapies and gadgets. It's a lot.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, the sheer number of options out there now for health and wellness,
Yeah.
it's huge.
Oh,
Trying to
yeah.
figure out what's actually useful or, relevant to you, that can feel overwhelming.
Totally. And well, that's exactly why we're doing this. We've gathered up this pile of sources you sent over articles, notes, bits of research, all covering these kind of innovative healing technologies.
Right. And our job here is to sort of cut through that information overload for you. We'll dig into this material, pull out the key takeaways, explain what these different approaches actually are, and hopefully help you see why they might be interesting.
Yeah, and this dive into the sources, it's going to cover some really surprising ground. We'll kick off with something super basic breathing, then look at how air pressure itself can be a therapy. Then we get into maybe weirder stuff like digital information carriers.
Okay.
We'll explore stem cells, real cutting edge stuff there, targeted detox methods, and then wrap up with therapies using energy, light, heat, and cold. It's quite the mix.
It really highlights how many different angles people are exploring to try and optimize health, doesn't it?
Definitely. So let's jump straight in.
Huh.
Breathing. I mean, it sounds almost too simple, but the sources really emphasize nose breathing. What's the big deal there?
Well, the core idea from the material is that breathing through your nose does way more than just filter air. It actually changes how your body operates on a pretty fundamental level, especially compared to mouth breathing.
How so?
Okay, so mouth breathing tends to keep the air kind of shallow up in the top parts of your lungs. Nose breathing, though, apparently directs air deeper down into the lower lobes.
And the lower lobes are better somehow.
Yeah, according to these sources. They're gravity fed, so they get much more blood flow. That means better gas exchange, getting oxygen in, but also, crucially, getting CO2 out efficiently. Plus, they apparently have more parasympathetic nerve receptors down there.
Parasympathetic, that's the calming system, right? Rest and digest.
Exactly. So breathing deeper with your nose actually helps activate that calming, restorative part of your nervous system.
Mouth breathing, being more upper chest focused, can kind of keep you in a more stressed state.
Huh. So just by breathing through your nose, you could feel calmer, and maybe exercise feels easier because you're getting rid of CO2 better.
That seems to be the connection they're making, yeah. You know that feeling during exercise where you just have to gasp for air? The sources suggest better CO2 removal via nose breathing can help manage that, and it properly uses your diaphragm.
The main breathing muscle, does that matter much? Oh, hugely. The diaphragm sits right on top of your stomach. When it moves fully, it can sort of massage the stomach, which might help digestion. It also makes your rib cage expand properly, good for heart and lungs, and acts like a pump for your lymphatic system.
Wow, lymph pump too. That's vital for detox, right?
It is. So yeah, lots of downstream benefits just from how you inhale. It's pretty interesting.
It really is. The sources also mention specific breathing techniques, not just nose breathing generally.
They list a few. Things like Ujjayi Pranayama often involves holding your breath in a controlled way. Then there's Bhastrika, or bellows breath, quite an active inhale and exhale. The goal there is supposedly to boost that parasympathetic activity and really oxygenate things. Kapalabhati is another, and Pradaloma.
Prodiloma. That's the one with resistance, like partially blocking your nostrils.
That's the one. You create resistance as you inhale, forcing the diaphragm and other breathing muscles to work a bit harder. Kind of like strength training for your breathing apparatus.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, this link between breath and digestion takes us to something else mentioned. Stomach pulling. Sounds intense. It comes from Ayurveda.
Yeah, it relates to an Ayurvedic idea about energy flow, or vata, moving upwards when it shouldn't. The source explains how chronic stress, maybe even bad posture or indigestion, can cause the stomach to actually kind of adhere or get stuck to the underside of the diaphragm.
Your stomach gets stuck. Seriously. That sounds awful.
It does, yeah. And the list of potential symptoms they link to this is surprisingly broad. Not just the obvious stuff like heartburn, but things like hay fever, headaches, skin issues, brain fog, sore throats, even food intolerances like gluten or dairy or neck and shoulder pain. The idea is a restricted stomach just can't function properly.
Wild. How would you even know if that's happening?
The source suggests trying to press, like fairly deeply onto the left side of your rib cage with your thumb. If it's tender there, that's supposedly a sign of this adhesion. They also suggest checking the right side for liver or gallbladder tenderness.
Okay. And this stomach pulling is supposed to fix it.
That's the aim. It involves techniques like applying pressure while using specific breathing patterns to gently encourage the stomach to release and move back down where it should be.
Are there ways to prevent it getting stuck in the first place?
Deep nasal breathing, especially during exercise, is mentioned as a key preventative. It keeps the diaphragm moving fully and creates space. Also, things like sun salutations from yoga, eating in a relaxed state, and eating seasonally, all aimed at keeping that downward energy flow, that vata, moving correctly.
It's fascinating how these old traditions often have these practical mechanical explanations behind them. Okay, sticking with breath and the nervous system, heart rate variability, HRV comes up a lot.
Right. HRV is presented as a really key metric for tracking your overall well-being, how well you're recovering, and how resilient you are to stress. It's basically measuring the tiny variations in time between your heartbeats.
And that tells you about your nervous system balance.
Yeah, it reflects the interplay between your fight or flight and rest and digest systems and the health of your vagus nerve. Higher variability is generally better.
Higher HRV means you handle stress better.
That's the idea. The sources link higher HRV to better focus, feeling calmer, performing better both physically and mentally, even tolerating pain better, and just generally being more resilient. So tracking it gives you a snapshot of how ready your body is for challenges.
Okay, so from our internal air management, let's broaden out. What about the air around us? The sources mention activated air.
Yeah, activated air is just listed as a category. It suggests there are therapies that modify the air somehow beyond just cleaning it, but the material didn't really elaborate on what those are specifically.
Gotcha. But then there's hyperbaric oxygen therapy, HBOT. That one's a bit more known.
Definitely. HBOT involves breathing pure, 100% oxygen inside a chamber where the air pressure is cranked up, maybe 2 or 3 times higher than normal sea level pressure.
And what's that used for? The list seems long.
It really is. Things like speeding up healing after surgery, burns, serious infections or injuries. Also helping with chronic fatigue like post-COVID issues. Then there's potential exploration for neurological conditions, Lyme, Parkinson's, MS, ALS, stroke, brain injuries, even heart disease.
What's the mechanism? How does breathing oxygen under pressure do all that?
Well, a high pressure forces much more oxygen to dissolve directly into your blood plasma, not just relying on red blood cells. This superoxygenated plasma can reach tissues that might have poor blood supply, so it dramatically boosts the oxygen available for healing and repair.
Okay, more oxygen equals faster healing.
That's part of it. But the sources also point to deeper effects. It seems to influence which genes get turned on or off, boosting anti-inflammatory and growth repair signals while quieting pro-inflammatory ones. And, connecting back to what you said earlier, it apparently activates and mobilizes the body's own stem cells to go where they're needed.
Stem cells again. And portable chambers are making this more accessible.
Seems so, yeah. The sources mention that option, which could bring it out of just specialized clinics for certain uses.
Okay, now for one that sounds really novel, CVAC. Described as maybe the ultimate recovery tool you've never heard of. What is that?
Right, CVAC. It stands for Cyclic Variations in Adaptive Conditioning. It's different from HBOT, no extra oxygen. Instead, it uses dynamic pressure changes inside the chamber. The pressure cycles up and down rhythmically.
Dynamic pressure, what does that do to you?
The explanation is that these pressure fluctuations create a kind of subtle atmospheric workload on your body's tissues and fluids. It's like a gentle whole-body squeeze and release.
A workload, like exercise.
Sort of, but the key difference highlighted is that this workload is thought to stimulate your mitochondria, your cellular power plants, and boost metabolism without creating the same level of metabolic waste products that intense exercise does.
Ah, so you get some metabolic benefits without the usual cleanup required after a hard workout.
That's the reported advantage. Plus, it's supposed to really stimulate your lymphatic system and the glymphatic system in the brain. Those are your waste clearing networks. So, potential benefits listed are things like increased VO2 max, less muscle soreness, more mitochondria, better cell function overall, and improved waste removal.
Wow. So it sounds like it could give you some exercise-like benefits, better metabolism, more mitochondria, without the joint stress or muscle soreness. Great for recovery days, maybe?
That's exactly how the sources frame it, a tool for performance, health, longevity. They even compare its potential value to something like float tanks for athletes and high performers.
Interesting comparison. And quickly, they also mention stratosphere.
Yeah, just a brief mention. Another technology using atmospheric pressure, but this one's specifically for optimizing high-altitude training adaptation. So more tools in the air pressure toolbox.
Okay, let's pivot quite sharply now. From air pressure to something much more abstract. Therapies based on information, energy frequencies, this sounds a bit out there, infopathy or digital drugs.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like something from the future, doesn't it? The core idea presented is using informational or energetic signals, rather than chemicals, to nudge the body's healing processes. They draw parallels. Like how we went from physical books to ebooks or snail mail to instant messages.
So, applying that logic, the body might respond to information delivered electronically, not just physically.
That's the premise. They talk about an electronic key lock principle. Like your car key fob doesn't physically turn the lock, but the signal it sends unlocks the door. The sources even bring up research like Luca Turin's vibrational theory of smell. The idea that maybe our noses detect the vibrational frequency of a molecule, not just its shape.
Okay, so maybe our cell receptors can recognize energetic patterns.
That's the theoretical underpinning presented. If receptors can recognize a substance's unique energetic signature, maybe you can capture that signature electronically and deliver it to trigger a similar response.
How would you even capture that signal?
The description involves using an electromagnetic coil near the substance to pick up its specific electromagnetic spectrum. Then that signal is amplified and recorded.
And then you imprint it onto water. That's a key part, right?
Yes, water imprinting is central to infopathy. It ties into some complex physics, quantum electrodynamics, QED, about water forming coherent domains. Basically, the idea is that water molecules, under certain electromagnetic influence, can organize themselves to oscillate together and essentially hold and transmit this energetic information.
So you drink the imprinted water, and it delivers the information, the energetic key, to your cells.
That's the proposed mechanism. The water acts as the carrier for the electromagnetic signature, which then interacts with cell receptors.
Do they cite anything to back this up? It sounds pretty unconventional.
They do mention some studies, like work by Dr. Luc Montagnier, the virologist, who claimed he could record electromagnetic signals from highly diluted DNA, imprint them onto water, and then use that water to replicate the DNA via PCR. Also, studies by Dr. Peter Endler comparing actual thyroxine hormone to a digital signal of thyroxine on tadpoles, apparently showing similar effects on their development. The water memory documentary gets a mention too.
And Infopathy is the platform that offers this, with specific devices.
Correct. Infopathy is an online platform with a library of these signals called information carriers or ICs. Then you use one of their devices like a pad you place water on or a wearable Hummer to transfer the chosen IC signal into the water or directly onto your body. The devices stream the signal, they don't store it.
What about practicalities? Like, does it replace medicine? How much do you use?
Good questions. The sources are clear. ICs are meant to complement other treatments, definitely not replace medication. And interestingly, they say dose isn't really the right concept. It's about the information getting through, not the amount of water or time.
Which circles back to that idea of water carrying information, like Jacques Benveniste's controversial work from years ago.
Exactly. They frame infopathy as non-invasive, non-toxic, adding a holistic layer. Reported findings mentioned cover things like joint pain, kidney issues, psoriasis, mood support. Hundreds of ICs available, apparently, often via subscription. The inventor, Anton Fedorenko, has a background in physics and studied water extensively.
Okay. This idea of balancing energy patterns shows up elsewhere too, right? Not just infopathy.
Yeah, they briefly list NES infoceuticals. Also Zyto, which involves scanning biomarkers to see how your body responds energetically, and Metatron, focused on energetic balancing.
Region U3 is mentioned in a bit more detail.
Right. Region U3 is described as a system that tries to detect cellular miscommunication by analyzing frequency patterns. Then it attempts to introduce therapeutic frequencies to correct the disturbing ones, aiming to restore the body's self-regulation and cellular health.
Which fits that broader theme in the sources that illness or disease might stem from chaotic frequencies messing up how cells talk to each other.
Exactly, working at that biophysical level. Then there's also ultra-low EMF therapies.
Ultra-low EMFs, what's the key point there?
The main takeaway cited from lab studies is that, yes, low-intensity, low-frequency EMFs can affect living systems. But, and this is crucial, it only happens at very specific frequency combinations and intensities. It's not just any EMF, it has to be precisely tuned. Light and sound are given as examples of natural ultra-low EMF sources used therapeutically.
Okay. Wow, let's shift from energy and info back to something more physical. Regenerating the body, stem cells.
Big topic. The sources bring up the stem cell theory of aging. Basically, we age largely because our natural supply of stem cells dwindles or they stop working as well.
So advanced therapies try to boost that supply or function.
Precisely. One detailed example is the full-body stem cell makeover from Doser Clinics with Dr. Adelson and Dr. Killen. Interesting backstory. They started treating horses. It worked so well the farmers wanted it too.
A full body makeover, what does that entail?
It's pretty comprehensive. They harvest your own stem cells, usually from fat and bone marrow. Often, they add exosomes. Think of those as the little messenger packets stem cells use to tell other cells what to do. Then, this mix is injected strategically all over joints, muscles, spine for pain and function, but also skin, scalp for hair growth, even sexual organs for rejuvenation.
And the results they claim.
Things like better skin, improved sexual function, less pain, better movement. It's positioned not just for repair, but as a preventative aging strategy. They also mention using other biohacks afterwards, PEMF, light therapy, hydrogen, etc., to maximize the effects.
They also mention the regulatory landscape is tricky.
Yeah, it's an evolving field legally and medically.
Okay, what about PRP, platelet-rich plasma? That's also regenerative.
Right. PRP uses a concentration of your own blood platelets. You draw blood, spin it down, take the platelet-rich layer, and inject it into an injured area, like a tendon or ligament. Platelets have growth factors that signal healing. It might help speed up rehab or avoid surgery sometimes, though research is still ongoing.
And this honey matrix from Advanced Rejuvenation Center, how's that different?
So the honey matrix isn't just platelets. It's a patented process that uses all the coating components from your plasma, concentrating them into this matrix. It acts like a natural scaffold, providing key structural proteins, fibronectin, vitrectin, fibrinogen. The idea is that adding this matrix to PRP or stem cell treatments gives the cells a much better environment to build new tissue, enhancing the healing.
Sounds clever. And bone marrow stem cells, BMSC, are they considered particularly powerful?
They seem to be. Harvested from bone marrow, usually the hip bone, they spin it down to get a concentrate that's way richer in stem cells and growth factors, maybe 5 to 11 times richer. It's apparently become a simpler in-office procedure now.
What makes them special?
They're undifferentiated, meaning they haven't decided what they want to be yet, because they can potentially turn into various tissue types, bone, cartilage, muscle, etc. But here's the kicker from the sources regarding aging. The number of these BMSCs drops dramatically as we get older, like maybe 1 in 10,000 cells as a baby, down to 1 in 2 million by age 70.
Whoa. No wonder healing slows down.
Exactly. That decline is a huge factor. So, injecting concentrated BMSC, especially into tough spots like around spinal discs, is a strategy to directly combat that age-related decline and promote regeneration.
Now, you mentioned light earlier. Lumistem laser therapy comes up again here linked to stem cells?
Yeah, Lumistem uses laser light to basically energize the mitochondria in damaged cells, boosting their healing power. But the key connection here is that it's also said to help keep stem cells, whether injected or your own, viable and multiplying. It helps prevent them from becoming senescent, which is like them just giving up and going dormant.
So the laser helps the stem cells stay active and do their job better?
That's the claim. It enhances the clinical results you get from the stem cell treatments themselves.
Okay, so we've talked about building new cells. Now how about cleaning up the old or damaged ones? Detoxification.
Right. Dr. Pompa's True Cellular Detox, TCD, what's the basic idea there?
The core concept is that toxicity inside our cells is a major underlying problem. It stops cells from working properly, prevents things like fat burning because fat can store toxins, and just makes people feel unwell. Toxins essentially clog up the cell's own detox machinery.
And TCD has specific principles.
3 main ones highlighted. First, real detox happens in the cell. Just doing colon cleanses isn't enough. You have to get the toxins out of the cells themselves. Second, you have to open the downstream pathways at the same time. Your liver, kidneys, gut, lymph, they all need to be working well to handle the toxins released from the cells. Otherwise, the toxins just shuffle around and make you feel worse.
Okay, makes sense. And the third principle?
Use real binders. This is crucial.
Binders. Why are they so important? Because when toxins, especially heavy metals or chemicals stored in fat, are mobilized, the liver often dumps them into bile, which goes into your gut. If you don't have something in the gut to bind or grab onto those toxins, your intestines just reabsorb them right back into your bloodstream. It's called autointoxication. Binders act like sponges, or, as the source says, a catcher's mitt in the gut to trap those toxins from bile so you can actually excrete them.
And this is where the fasting trio products fit in.
Exactly. Cytodetox is mentioned as helping toxins move through the liver and out, especially good for things like heavy metals. Bindy is the actual binder product, activated charcoal, special clays, humic fulvic acids designed to sit in the gut and grab onto toxins released in bile, plus other things like pathogens. Prevents that reabsorption. It's also accredited with other benefits like helping cholesterol, reducing bloating, supplying minerals.
And Festonic, that uses molecular hydrogen.
Right. Festonic delivers H2, molecular hydrogen. It's tiny, gets everywhere. Its big role is balancing oxidative stress. But the sources emphasize it's selective. It neutralizes the really nasty free radicals, like the hydroxyl radical, turning them into harmless water, but leaves the beneficial ones the body needs for signaling and cleanup processes like autophagy.
Right.
It supports energy, inflammation balance, brain function, healing, working with the body's intelligence, not against it.
There's also talk of a brain phase in TCD.
Yes, super important according to the sources, because many toxins, especially heavy metals and chemicals, are fat-soluble. They can cross the blood-brain barrier and build up in the brain over years. This brain phase uses specific strategies and agents like forms of cytodetox that can reach the brain to target and remove these neurotoxins. This is seen as key for addressing deep-seated chronic symptoms, weird illnesses, hormone issues that nothing else touches. The core idea, remove the toxic interference, let the body heal itself.
And connecting back to stem cells again, stemnomic solutions.
Right. These are products Dr. Pompa developed to work with the body's natural cycles of cleanup and rebuilding. Cell CLRs designed to enhance autophagy, the recycle phase where your body breaks down old, junky cells and fats. You'd use that during fasting or keto. Cell Renew supports the renewal phase, aiming to boost the growth of new, healthy stem cells. You'd use that during your eating window or refeeding period. It's about clearing out the old to make space for and support the new. Maximizing autophagy helps maximize your own stem cell production and the results from any stem cell injections.
Okay, that really ties cellular health together. So we've hit breath, info, regeneration, detox. What about therapies using external forces? Heat, cold, light, water, PEMF.
Let's group those. And yeah, PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, we mentioned, it helps stem cells, but what else?
What's the general idea behind PEMF?
It uses pulsing electromagnetic fields that penetrate deep into the body. The claimed benefits are broad: speeding up healing, reducing inflammation, helping wounds close, partly through that stem cell boost we talked about. It's generally considered safe. The idea is it influences cell chemistry, stimulates electrical processes in cells, improves their metabolism, helps them regenerate.
Any specific PEMF devices mentioned?
Yeah, BioBalance PEMF is highlighted for helping balance the autonomic nervous system, calming the fight or flight, boosting rest and digest. Good for recovery, makes exercise more effective. Then there's the Magnosphere, which uses very low-level fields. It's positioned as counteracting dirty electricity or environmental EMF stress, helping relaxation and balancing the nervous system based on your symptoms. They also give a nod to historical figures like Tesla and Rife, who explored similar ideas way back.
Okay, on to heat. Saunas are pretty common, but HOCAT? That sounds more complex.
PROCAT is definitely more involved. Stands for Hyperthermic Ozone and Carbonic Acid Transdermal Technology. Think of it as a supercharged ozone steam sauna pod you sit in. It combines several things at once. Heat from steam and infrared opens pores and boosts circulation. This allows ozone gas introduced into the pod to be absorbed through the skin, transdermal ozone. You breathe concentrated oxygen, EWO. Plus, it often includes PEMF, microcurrents, light therapy, even UV light, all working together.
Wow, multitasking. What are the claimed benefits?
Increased vitality, support for chronic illness, general wellness boost from combining all those modalities.
And full-body hyperthermia. That sounds like literally inducing a fever.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a medically supervised procedure where they raise your core body temperature significantly, mimicking a high fever. The rationale is that fevers are a natural way the body fights infection, mobilizing white blood cells, killer T cells, to go after pathogens like bacteria, viruses, mold, even mutated cells. It's presented as a strong preventative tool. They note it's used in Germany alongside chemo for cancer, even covered by insurance there. Requires 50 fluids for hydration, of course.
Okay, from hot to cold. Cryotherapy is out there, but CoolMIT is different, focused on performance.
Yeah, CoolMIT is interesting. It's all about controlling muscle temperature for better performance, but it does it by targeting specific skin areas, palms of the hands, soles of the feet, upper face. These spots have lots of special blood vessels called AVAs, which are super efficient at dumping heat. The device is basically a mitt you put your hand in, circulating cool water over the palm.
Just cooling your palm can boost performance that much.
Apparently, yes. The sources cite studies showing pretty dramatic results, like Over 100% increase in strength endurance in some cases, big jumps in work capacity, less cramping, it's portable, was developed initially for military use.
And the podcast reference suggests this targeted cooling might be better than ice baths after training.
That's the interesting point raised. Maybe blasting your whole body with cold right after a workout could actually blunt some of the muscle building signals, like MTOR, whereas targeted cooling via the palms helps you perform better during the workout or recover faster without that potential downside. Something to consider.
Makes sense. Water therapy's next. Float tanks.
Right, float therapy, also called sensory deprivation or isolation tanks. You float in shallow water that's super saturated with Epsom salt, like 1,000 pounds of it. Makes you incredibly buoyant, totally effortless floating.
Is it clean? All that salt?
Yeah, the high salt concentration is naturally antimicrobial, plus they use rigorous filtration and sterilization with UV and hydrogen peroxide between sessions. You shower before and after.
What's the point of floating?
Well, removing external stimuli, sound, light, even gravity allows for really deep relaxation. People use it for stress relief, introspection, visualizing goals or performance. Also great for muscle recovery. The Epsom salts might have skin benefits too. It's a tool for mental and physical reset.
Okay. Hydrotherapy and coffee enemas, these are linked back to detox.
Yes, specifically mentioned as helpful support during the later phases of TCD, the body and brain detox phases. They help keep the bowels moving so toxins mobilized by the detox protocol actually get out. The source is clear, though. They help remove toxins already on their way out, but don't fix the cellular issue on their own. And using a probiotic afterwards is recommended.
Got it. Back to light and frequencies. We hit PEMF and laser. V-light seems focused on the brain.
Exactly. V-light specializes in photobiomodulation, PBM, for the brain, usually non-invasively using light emitters on the head or up the nose. The sources list a ton of potential applications they're researching or seeing effects in. Cognitive enhancement, recovery from TBI or stroke, mood support like depression, impacting brain metabolism, inflammation, oxidative stress, even stimulating neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells.
Does it affect the rest of the body too?
Yeah, they also mention systemic effects from applying light to the blood, like intranasally. Things like influencing circulating mitochondria, improving oxygenation and blood flow, protecting red blood cells, modulating the immune system for wound healing. They emphasize the low energy density, making it safe.
Sensate is mentioned quickly too.
Right, just listed as a device for toning the vagus nerve, which ties back to HRV, calm, and stress resilience. Biophoton therapy is another category mentioned.
And the superhuman protocol, that sounds like a specific recipe.
It is. It's presented as a specific sequence. Magnetism, PEMF first, then oxygen, EWA, then light, PBM. The order matters. PEMF supposedly charges the cells and separates red blood cells so they can carry oxygen better. Then EWA delivers that oxygen more effectively. Then the light therapy works optimally because the cells are primed and oxygenated, helping reverse oxidative stress and boost energy ATP production.
So each step enhances the next one.
That's the synergy they're claiming. Okay, then there's Somavedic. This one is about EMF protection.
Right, for concerns about Wi-Fi, cell phones, 5G, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's positioned for people who feel sensitive to EMFs or live work in high EMF environments. The reported effects listed are pretty wide-ranging. Positive impacts on cardiovascular and nervous systems, better sleep, generating negative ions, reducing oxidative stress, faster regeneration, less muscle fatigue, better antioxidant levels, helping red blood cells unclump, which could boost immunity, help chronic pain autoimmune issues.
How does it supposedly work?
It's a device, usually made of glass, that you plug in. It contains specific minerals and gemstones, and the idea is it creates a coherent field, amplifying the natural frequencies of these materials over a certain range, maybe 100 feet, even through walls. This field is meant to mitigate the chaotic effects of man-made EMFs. Some models are also said to structure water.
But they still recommend basic stuff like turning off Wi-Fi at night.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Good sleep hygiene, no phone in the bedroom, minimize exposure when possible is still foundational. Somavedic is presented as an extra layer for environments where you can't easily escape EMFs.
Okay, last one in this section. Scalar therapy, the E-system. This sounds deep.
It does go into some more esoteric concepts, scalar energy fields. The core description from the source is that the E-system technology activates the light at the core of the DNA.
Light in our DNA.
Yeah, based on the idea that DNA is biophotonic, meaning it fundamentally interacts with light. The theory presented is that the specific scalar fields generated cause photons to collide in a way that activates this inner light, which in turn is believed to raise the energy level or voltage of the cells. The underlying belief is that if the cells have enough energy, the body has the power to heal anything and everything.
That's a bold claim. Any other effects mentioned?
Balancing the right and left brain hemispheres, achieving a state of coherence or zero-point energy. They use the Hawaiian term pono, meaning balance or alignment. The sources do mention the existence of published clinical studies and research materials related to it.
Man, we have covered a ton of ground. Just need to quickly touch on those last categories, rehab and clinical support.
Right, these are more clusters of therapies. Under rehab, they list things like Rise and Walk for neurorehab, Normatec compression boots for recovery, the X-Pulse Mobility suit, analytical stimulation suit, and specific heavy leg rehab exercises focused on physical recovery and function.
And clinical therapies, things done in a clinic.
Yeah, examples given were acupuncture and neural therapy, which involves injecting local anesthetic into specific points, liver hyperthermia, heating the liver specifically, ozone treatments, various methods, IV nutrient infusions, and liver gallbladder flushes.
Okay. And finally, testing for heavy metals and treating them.
Right, the oligoskin was mentioned as a way to test. It's a handheld device using light, spectrophotometry, to measure minerals and toxic metals right in your tissues, non-invasively. Said to be quite accurate compared to some other methods.
And if it finds high levels?
Then chelation therapy is the treatment discussed. Using agents like EDTA or STMP, usually given intravenously, that bind to heavy metals so your body can excrete them safely in urine.
But there was a warning with chelation.
Yes, a very important one. These chelating agents aren't perfectly selective. They can also grab onto and remove essential minerals like zinc or magnesium. So it's crucial, according to the sources, to supplement with those beneficial minerals during and after chelation to avoid creating deficiencies.
Wow. Okay. Stepping back from all these details. Breath, air pressure, digital info, stem cells, detox, heat, cold, light, PEMF, scalar waves. It's just an incredible spectrum of approaches we've just walked through from these sources.
It really is. And when you look at them all together, you start to see common threads, don't you? So many seem to target, maybe in different ways, things like boosting cellular energy mitochondria keep coming up.
Yeah, and detoxification pathways. Reducing inflammation seems huge, too.
Improving circulation, supporting stem cell function, balancing the nervous system between stress and calm. And ultimately, almost all of them are trying to leverage or support the body's own innate intelligence and healing capacity.
Exactly. And that's really the value for you listening. Seeing this range of ideas from the source material gives you, hopefully, a broader map of potential avenues to explore for your own health goals, whether that's recovery, feeling better day to day, or thinking about long-term wellness and aging. We just wanted to distill this info for you.
Yeah, give you a clear overview of these complex topics and specific technologies that were mentioned in the documents.
So, to wrap up this deep dive, maybe here's a final thought to chew on, sparked by some of those more cutting-edge concepts we encountered in these sources. If our bodies really can recognize information coded into water or carried on frequencies, and if some therapies genuinely aim to, activate light within our DNA, well, what does that suggest about where healing might be headed? How much of our health potential isn't just about chemicals and mechanics, but about mastering these subtle energies, information fields, and the incredible intelligence already built into us?
Definitely food for thought about the future.
It really is.